We've all seen the movie The Matrix. It was interesting and fun on the big screen of the TV, but has it become a bit too real in your own life? Are you seeing glitches in the Matrix and trying to figure out what's happening? Have you been told that you've been tricked and that you need to fight against what they've done to you? The deception. Whether you're just beginning to notice, or if you've been searching for a more peaceful and congruent way to live without battling them, you're in the right place. I'm Ken, and I'll be joined by Eliza and Reina Estela. Let's explore together on the Liberty Ark. Welcome back to the Liberty Ark Podcast. This is Ken, and I'm here with Eliza and Reina Estela for session 35? 35, yeah. Cool. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing really good. How are you?
Really good.
Doing great. Great to see you, Reina, Estela, and Ken.
Ready for some fun?
Likewise. Absolutely ready.
All right. We're working through a book called The Great International Heist, written by friends of ours, Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues. And we've been through a lot of topics already. We're going to go a little deeper today. And Eliza is going to read just a short passage, and then we're going to have a little talk about it.
Episode 35, The Illusion of Ownership and Control. Legal person versus natural person. There is a crucial distinction between the legal person, the administrative entity created by the system, and the natural person, the living being. The legal, administrative person is bound by the system's contracts and obligations, whereas the living being, the natural person, has intrinsic rights and freedoms. Understanding this distinction is crucial for all of us seeking to remember who we truly are and learn to navigate the system effectively. The legal/administrative person is created through documentation and serves as the interface between the live being and the system. The legal administrative entity is subject to the system's rules and regulations, while the live being remains largely unaware of the legal complexities that govern their life. By recognizing the difference between these two entities, live men and women can begin to disentangle themselves from the obligations and controls imposed upon the legal person/administrative entity.
Now, we've placed a lot of emphasis on clarifying these two things on purpose, because the big confusion that a lot of people get in is who this is, the legal person versus the natural person. And that's not necessarily by accident, because most people, number one, don't even know there are two different entities. And those that do frequently call the legal person a corporation, which we've kind of clarified in the past. I think a lot of folks in the sovereignty movement get themselves in trouble by naming things in a way that's really not accurate and can be proved to not be accurate. It's understandable why they say it the way they do, but it's just not accurate. So when you say the all caps name is a corporation, I mean, there's no corporate documents or anything like that like you would do for a corporation. But it is an administrative entity that allows for interaction and commerce. So as we stated earlier with the Social Security Administration and all the things that happened around 1930s, our republic began to shift over into administrative entities. And that sometimes gets presented as a bankruptcy of the United States and a new corporate entity. And a lot of people look kind of dumb because those phrases really can't be supported correctly. I mean, they're generally the idea of what happened, but to use those names kind of makes us look crazy sometimes. And it gives the other side the ability to say, no, it's not, because it doesn't have the trappings of an actual bankruptcy and an actual corporation. So to me and to these young folks, it's just better if we use more appropriate language that really describes it rather than using words that are not really accurate. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah. And it does get confusing because even Black's Law can twist you in circles, no matter what edition you're using.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the overarching learning that I had was that all of these administrative/legal entities that are created were created by them and belong to them. We have interaction and responsibilities there where we've been contracted into, but they're not ours. They're theirs. That distinction is important.
That is absolutely key. I think that sums up a lot of very important information. We are not it, but we did not produce it. They produced it. They are the owner of it because they produced it. They set us up and we took over as the live being that runs the organization that they produced. But it's their entity. It's they produced it. We didn't.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for us to really understand. I think we've talked about it also in the past, where it's really the root of the meaning of the word, depending on what it is you're doing or entering. It's an administrative system, and we do need to interact with it. And it's so important that we understand that it's needed, no matter what, on our on our day-to-day. So I think really getting to the point of understanding the meaning of the word based on what it is you're doing, and knowing that it's needed. And we're authorized to use that legal person name. We're authorized to use it, but we're not it. We're not the legal person.
I think the Monopoly game analogy is the best that works for this. And that is if you and another live being are playing Monopoly, you have to have a Monopoly piece to run around the board, because you can't run around the board. But if you want to play, which you don't have to, it's a choice to play, right? You have to have a piece to utilize. And
the pieces belong to the game.
That's exactly right. You don't own them. Even if you buy things during the thing, you don't own that. At the end of the game, you turn it all in, right? But it's not good nor bad. And I think a lot of times in the sovereignty kind of world, there's this blame game that happens. They did this bad thing to me, and I'm mad at them because they did this to me. When in reality, it's much more helpful to just understand how it's working, understand who you really are. You are not the Monopoly piece, but you have chosen, maybe purposefully or maybe through trickery, however you want to word it, but you have taken on the responsibility of managing that organization that they created for you. So the problem comes when you start getting convinced that you are the organization, and then you take from them the responsibility of being the organization, or you argue with them and try to convince them that you're not the organization. They already know you're not the organization. And if you know you're not the organization, there's no reason to argue about it.
Is it fair to say, though, that I agree with everything you just said, right? Understanding is the key, awareness and so forth. Is it fair to say in the game that they are intentionally wrapping us to believe that we are it.
They're more
That
than
we are the peace.
They're more than happy for you to believe that.
Right?
Yes.
And that's what we want to get across. Is we want to get across that is not you.
Right. And in the game, they're going to assume and presume that you don't know the difference and that you think you are it.
And I think the next slide actually bears that out really well. That
you want to read that again to us and kind of define that?
Yes. This legal administrative person, we're using them as synonyms, is bound by the system's contracts and obligations, whereas the living being, the natural person, has intrinsic rights and freedoms. This sentence is where I was leading. Understanding this distinction is crucial for all of us seeking to remember who we truly are and learn to navigate the system effectively. Mm-hmm. That last sentence, this was that it was so freeing to find whiterabbit.academy, right? Because this is where the learning for me started. How to navigate the system effectively while learning who we truly are. So,
and
my gratitude.
How to truly interact with the system, utilize the system. So many people want to get out of the system. Well, do you really? I mean, the system can have useful things about it as long as you don't get wrapped up in a way that your body gets to pay for things.
Right.
And it takes some learning and some clarification to clearly see the distinctions and understand who you really are and what your purpose and capacity within the game is, without arguing, battling with them, but just truly understanding and knowing how to interact with it appropriately.
Right.
And that's where I say that it's important that we learn how to play the game and play it well, because sure, you can push for completely getting out of the system, but why? I mean, you can use it but to your benefit. Yeah. You can use it for it to benefit what your needs and your family's needs are, because it's set up. We are the beneficiary. We are to benefit from it, but we need to understand how to play it the way that it was designed or written.
Right. And this slide brings out that most of the live beings remain unaware that they're being treated as a legal entity, but they've agreed to be that.
And that's what they're relying on, is that you'll be unaware.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of us do
Absolutely.
Go through our life thinking that we are, right? We all go through it. I think the mass majority of us are in that position where we...
I think it's worse than that. I think there's no thinking, right? There's just...
No offense.
There's just not even an understanding that there's a separation.
Oh.
Right?
And encouragement not to think.
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah. Right. And the first step for most of us is just the recognition of the separation. And then you have to sort out within yourself, what are you going to do with that information? And most people at least go through a phase of anger that the system tricked you into thinking you were the same. And what we try to do is get people to come past the anger stage and to recognize fighting it is not useful. Fighting just gives it more energy. And you don't need to. It's like one of the stories we were talking about earlier, which is, big dogs versus little dogs, right? The little dog is usually a yapper that's screaming, and the big dog has control and knows who he is. So there's no reason to yap. And that's one of the things that White Rabbit does for you, is to help you to truly learn to be capable within the system, to manage the organization that they set up for you, the monopoly piece, to manage it appropriately, honorably, and not be controlled by it.
And if it doesn't matter if someone woke up that there's this distinction 50 years ago or, months ago, there still needs to be learning of how to operate effectively within the system. Am I a fighter, or do I recognize that I have some powers here where I can be effective?
Well, I think, Eliza, to that comment there, it's funny because it's when we take accountability and responsibility, right, for our actions that makes a humongous difference. And accountability, I had a comment where a gentleman mentioned, or said, where have you been the last 50 years, right? I didn't take it bad. I was very polite. And honestly, I took accountability. I said I was sleeping. I wasn't aware. And that's the truth.
Mhm.
And again, this path, accountability, responsibility, and truth. Be honest. Be truthful. Take accountability that the reason you didn't know is because you were sleeping. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, pretty
right?
much.
When we take accountability.
Pretty much everybody has been in that condition.
Yeah.
Most of us
Very
are not
much.
born with awareness of these things. Right now, different people wake up at different stages, and some people never at all. And that's neither good nor bad. It's nothing to, speak badly about anybody with. Everybody has a different level of moments that it takes them to recognize things and begin to question. And our interest is primarily in helping those that are in that process to do it in a healthy and sane way rather than getting angry and battling the system, because it's so much better to just understand, to work with it, and to take your responsibility to your obligations to that entity without being controlled by the entity or the state.
And it made so much sense, Ken, when you mentioned, and of course we also heard it, of course, through our learning at libertyarkpodcast.com/White Rabbit, where they know we are not the legal person. And when you commented, we don't need to sit here and try to let them know or argue with them that we are not the legal person. They already know it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so us using our approach in a peaceful way without arguing, non-belligerent, and going on that path. It's a lot less energy being used from us because we're doing it the peaceful way, the right way. There's a lot of right ways, but what I'm saying is, like, we don't have to be out there at war, fighting and trying to prove that we're not the legal person.
Now, there are people that just love battles, and sometimes they can make that work, but I find it's a fairly rare person that can do that. And most folks that attempt that end up creating themselves some pretty significant problems that didn't need to be there.
And yeah, absolutely. And just to wrap up here, disentangling does not mean exiting the system like we talked before. Disentangling, and it's not going to live on a mountaintop, no internet, no phone, no nothing. It sounds good for almost 30 seconds until you start thinking about it. But it's disentangling is the comprehension, and then choosing how to go forward to be effective in the system on your terms.
Yeah. I mean, disentangle, I think, like wires, right? I mean, it's the clarification of what wire goes where, what's attached to what, rather than just being a big mess out there that everything gets hooked into things they don't belong with. What we do is help disentangle that so that it's clear, so that you understand who you are and what obligations you've agreed to, and that you're meeting those obligations appropriately and not taking on things that you don't need to take on.
Well said.
All right. I think that's the last page.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have any
Good
last
wrap.
thoughts on this one?
I want to give you one last thought, Ken. Okay.
Do it.
So again, it's repeating what we said already. It's understanding the difference. It's not about rejecting the system, right? It's learning how to play and play it best. It is about understanding, the relationship we have with it or to it.
Eliza?
Excellent. I think we've said it all.
Cool.
This was a great time for clarity that we handled today. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think we're getting a lot of clarity on the words too, and the concepts that we had to build up over time. And now we're starting to be able to talk more directly about them because we've clarified the distinctions between things.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you much.
Been a lot of fun.
If you're interested in learning more, check it out. You can start a free account at libertyarkpodcast.com/White Rabbit. Thanks.
See you guys.
Okay, much love.
The views expressed in this Liberty Ark podcast are for informational and educational purposes only. They do not constitute legal or tax advice, and they may not reflect the official positions of anyone at all, really. We want to express our appreciation to the authors of the unpublished manuscript titled The Great International Heist, on which the Liberty Ark podcast is based. Rebecca and Jonathan Rodrigues, the authors, provide courses that go into much greater depth and are available at libertyarkpodcast.com/White Rabbit.